This decision came at virtually the last possible moment for the Attorney General Jeff Sessions to make it. McCabe was set to retire in just a couple of days when he turned 50 after about 21 years with the FBI. And he was fired in part because of an ongoing investigation into his conduct as it relates to some investigations the FBI had been conducting into Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation. That investigation had been referred to an office called the Office of Personnel Responsibility, who had reportedly recommended that McCabe be fired. Now, we haven't actually seen that report, but CNN has reported this week that that report was scathing and criticized McCabe's actions. Sessions then decided to go forward with this action. But what is really at stake here is the question of whether he was being pressured by President Trump to fire McCabe over a separate issue, over the question of whether McCabe could validate the Robert Mueller probe and some claims that the former FBI Director James Comey had made about his conversations with Donald Trump. Trump has been criticizing McCabe on social media for weeks now. He specifically mentioned McCabe's intent to retire in a couple of months and criticized that, claiming that McCabe was trying to retire quietly and receive his pension. And last night, after the news that Sessions had actually moved forward with the firing, the president celebrated it, and he seemed to gloat over it. He said in this tweet that I'm going to pull up here, he said in this tweet that McCabe's firing was a great day for Americans and a great day for the FBI. He said the sanctimonious James Comey was a boss who made McCabe look like a choir boy. He knew all about the lies and corruption going on at the highest levels of the FBI. McCabe is saying in his own right that he was being targeted by the president, that his comments about the ongoing Mueller investigation were the real reason why he was targeted for investigation and then subsequently fired. There's a question now about whether McCabe is going to pursue some kind of legal recourse to receive his pension, and in that process use the president's own statements, his comments on social media, the constant pressure on Jeff Sessions to justify his claim that he was being unfairly targeted. On this issue, there seem to be claims being made on both sides, and I will say that when this Inspector General report actually comes out, we will know more about what McCabe was actually accused of doing. But for now, it seems that the Trump administration has moved forward to fire McCabe and remove his pension at a moment when, at the very last possible moment, he stands to lose, perhaps over $1 million in retirement funds as a result of this decision made by Jeff Sessions last night. Victor and Christy.
All right, Abby Phillips there in Washington. Thank you. And moments after being fired, Andrew McCabe released an emotional statement blasting the Trump administration. I'm going to read part of it for you now. For the last year and a half, my family and I have been the targets of an unrelenting assault on our reputation and my service to this country. Articles too numerous to count have leveled every sort of false, defamatory, and degrading allegation against us. The president's tweets have amplified and exacerbated it all. He called for my firing. He called for me to be stripped of my pension after more than 20 years of service. And all along, we have said nothing, never wanting to distract from the mission of the FBI by addressing the lies told and repeated about us. This attack on my credibility is one part of a larger effort, not just to slander me personally, but to taint the FBI, law enforcement, and intelligence professionals more generally. It is part of this administration's ongoing war on the FBI and the efforts of the special counsel investigation, which continue to this day. Their persistence in this campaign only highlights the importance of the special counsel's work.
Rachel Bade, CNN political analyst and congressional reporter for Politico, with me now. Good morning, Rachel. I see that you got the green memo as well, obviously, this morning.
Color of the season.
Tis the season in another way here. I wanted to ask you first and foremost, the point is nobody knows what specifically is in this report that was filed by the Office of Inspector General with the Department of Justice's office. With that said, can anybody really make a true assessment of where it goes from here?
No, we definitely got to we got to first read the report and see exactly why he was let go. Obviously, McCabe, he spoke to my colleague a couple of weeks ago, sort of anticipating that this was coming. He said that he walked in the door every single day for the past year, expecting that he actually might be let go and might be fired. And he said this was because the president has been trying to attack him. He said that this is all a campaign to discredit him as a potential witness to obstruction of justice case. He obviously talked to James Comey about any interactions he had with the president before the president fired James Comey because he didn't like the Russia investigation. Now, it is interesting, though, that the reason he's being let go is not because of Republican criticism of him or because the president has been, basically tweeting at him and harassing him for the past couple of months, but because career officials at the FBI, because of this investigation that we haven't actually seen the results of, determined that he made some sort of wrongful disclosure to the media and had not been forthcoming several times under oath. So it wasn't Republicans necessarily that led to this ousting. We don't know all the details, as you mentioned, but clearly the FBI felt it needed to move on this.
I want to bring in Philip Bump. Is he with us now? There you go. Hi, Philip. Philip Bump, national correspondent for the Washington Post. We got your shot up here. Grateful to have you with us. Want to listen with you here to Josh Campbell. He's a former FBI special agent and a law enforcement analyst for CNN. Here's what he said about all of this last night as it was happening.
The focus here is, was Andrew McCabe untruthful in answering questions to the Inspector General? At least the FBI has looked at that and said, yeah, there are some issues here. I'm not happy about any of this, but the one thing I do look forward to is finally being able to hear from Andy himself. He is a great man. He is a true public servant. He should be held accountable, but this issue should not define his service.
Even former FBI Director Tom Fuentes told us last hour that, listen, if you lied to the FBI, if you lied in any capacity as an FBI official, you are going to be fired. That's just what he knows to be true. With that said, is there any recourse here
I think that
for McCabe?
Well, I mean, it sort of remains to be seen. I mean, certainly he's already started a public pressure campaign. I doubt that he's going to be able to get his job back. There may be some sort of machinations he can undergo to try and get some of his pension. It's really not really clear. But I think the point that was just raised is an important one, which is that we don't really know what the Inspector General's report says at this point. There are a lot of rumors. We've heard rumors for weeks about the ways in which this might impugn McCabe. But the broader overarching question is that this is the second time that we've seen someone from the FBI fired after a report from the FBI that, obviously referring to James Comey, the last time this happened, there certainly was some question about the way in which it occurred. The fact that President Trump has been so direct and so forward in criticizing Andrew McCabe, clearly has been putting pressure on Jeff Sessions for a long time. The fact that this happened so shortly before this benchmark of when McCabe was going to be eligible for his pension, as noted by the president in December, there's a lot of questions about how this came about, when it came about, that I think clouds the issue of what it is that McCabe may actually have done, which will be answered once we see this Inspector General's report, which I think the sooner we can see that, the better for the president.
Something else Tom Fuentes said last hour was he thinks one of President Trump's perhaps bigger mistakes in all of this is the criticism he has continually given to the FBI over the last 14 months and before. I want to just, for example, in December of 2017, he said the FBI, its reputation is in tatters. It's the worst in history. That January 5th, the only collusion is with Hillary Clinton and the FBI and Russia. February 2017, the FBI is totally unable to stop the national security leakers. He has been on the FBI. Even in his tweet last night, he said lies and corruption going on at the highest levels of the FBI. Even though he did say this is a great day for the hardworking men and women of the FBI. A great day for democracy, he said last night. With all of that in context, how much has what President said about the FBI in the past affecting the way this is viewed now, Rachel?
It is completely tainted and colored how the American voters, American viewers are going to be watching this, right? I mean, how can they look at this guy, this top guy at the FBI, who had been attacked by the president, attacked by Republicans, being let go, somebody who could be a potential witness in Mueller's investigation of obstruction of justice or apparent, alleged obstruction of justice if he was going to bring a case on that? How can they not think that the president's actions and the president's desires has any sort of influence on this? How could they not question that? And I think that that's why a lot of Republicans have asked the president not to attack the FBI. A lot of traditional Republicans, GOP leaders on Capitol Hill, they do not want they are very much against this sort of tension and the president going after the FBI in this sort of regard. And so, yes, it absolutely colors everything in that in this.
Philip, something else that might color it. A tweet from the president in July of 2017. Problem is that the acting head of the FBI and the person in charge of the Hillary investigation, Andrew McCabe, got $700,000 from essentially Democrats for his wife. His wife was running for office. How does that play into all of this?
Well, I think the way that plays into all this is that is absolutely has nothing to do with the matter at hand. It never did. Donald Trump seized upon the fact that Andrew McCabe's wife ran for the state senate of Virginia in 2015. She lost the race well before Andrew McCabe became deputy director of the FBI, well before he was involved in the Clinton investigation at all. The money didn't come from Clinton. It came from the governor of Virginia, who gave to a lot of candidates. But this sets the scene, right? Donald Trump has consistently attacked McCabe and the FBI broadly, almost always under pretext which is inaccurate or completely false, as it is in that case. And that's the problem. The problem is Donald Trump clearly wanted to see Andrew McCabe go. He made that very explicitly obvious on Twitter in public statements. Now Andrew McCabe is gone at the last possible moment that he could have been fired, where he would have this punishment of not being able to receive his pension. And it's impossible to extricate from that Donald Trump's pressure on Jeff Sessions too. I mean, you were just outlining the pressure he put on the FBI, but he's also put a lot of pressure on Jeff Sessions to sort of come to heel.
Does this give Sessions a little more gumption, I guess, maybe with Donald Trump now, with the president?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Donald Trump will look at what Jeff Sessions did approvingly, absolutely. If Donald Trump didn't have a direct hand in saying, hey, you got to make sure this guy goes, which we'll have to wait and see.